Hi, this is Josh Marshall from TPM Media. It's Thursday, October 30th, 2008. 5 days before the November election. There's been a lot of talk over the last few days that the polls are starting to tighten and John McCain is making up some of the gap against Barack Obama. So today, with 5 days out, we're going to take another look at the national and state polls to see exactly where both candidates stand. Now to start, let's divide the polls into three basic categories. As you know, there are regular national polls, then there are daily updated tracking polls, and then there are polls in the individual states. And of course, it all comes down to states since the presidency is decided in the Electoral College. Now, the easiest way to track day-to-day trends is following those tracking polls. There's also an issue of noise, just sort of random bumping up and down. But there's, again, especially this tight on the election, where you can see the trends where they're going to show up first. So every day here at TPM, we put together something we call the TPM Track Composite that takes 6 of the 8 daily tracking polls and adds them up and comes up with a tabulated average, so we can put all those together and see the consensus of all those tracking polls together. Now here you can see this goes back to October 5th, and you can see the trend lines pretty clearly. And if you look at McCain's line, there's some wobbling up and down, but definitely over the course of the last few weeks, there is a trend upward. Not too much, but 2, possibly 3 points, depending on where you start the average from. At the same time, if you look at the blue line at the top, there's been a little trending down of Obama over the last couple days, but the big picture still seems relatively stable. Barack Obama is right about 50% or a little bit over, and then John McCain has been coming up, but he's still locked under 45%. So overall, a few days ago, this TPM Track Composite, combination of all the tracking polls, or 6 of the tracking polls put together, had a lead for Obama around 8 points. Now it's a little closer to 5 or 6 points. Now the tracking polls that we put together come out at different times during the day, and 4 of the 6 that we use are already out. And of those 2 show direction in McCain's favor, and 2 show movement in Obama's favor. So at this point, it seems that contraction that we've seen over the last couple days is starting to plateau, and the race is starting to stabilize again at around somewhere between 5 and 7 points. So what's the upshot? It seems to be that McCain is making some gains, but it's mainly him picking up undecided voters rather than Obama actually losing support. And the latest polls, the ones from this morning, Thursday, 5 days out, seem to show the race in these tracking polls stabilizing again in that range of 5 to 7 points. Now let's look at the states. You know, in our last episode last week, when we looked state by state, we looked at 9 states that are really in contention. So let's go back and look at those now and see how they're shaping up. The big picture is there's really not as much visible trend towards McCain in these state races as there seems to be on the national horse race score. First, Colorado. Here, Obama's lead seems to be expanding, and it's pretty substantial, high single digits. Almost certain Obama is going to take Colorado, and that's a key state. It was a Bush state in 2004 and 2000. The key state of Florida, again, another Bush state in 2000 and 2004. Still very close, low single digits, but it seems to be stabilizing with Obama holding that small lead. Indiana, extremely tight, probably with a very small advantage for McCain, but remember, this is a very red state, one that hasn't voted for a Democrat since 1964. It's really a toss-up. Missouri, again, super tight. This one is really a total toss-up, maybe with a very slight advantage for Obama. Last few polls had Obama just narrowly ahead. The most recent poll from CNN had McCain slightly ahead, so total toss-up. This is going to be one to watch on election night. Next, Nevada. This one's been really close most of the election, but Obama seems to have put together a pretty stable lead, anything from low single digits up to 10 points. This one looks like the consistent trend towards Obama and a likely win for Obama. New Mexico. George Bush lost New Mexico in 2000 and he won in 2004. It was been seen as a key swing state in this election, but Obama has really put together a solid lead, and this one, he's on the way to putting this one away. Next up is North Carolina. Now this is usually a reliably red state, but this year it looks a little like Florida in as much as Barack Obama seems to have a relatively consistent but small lead in the state. The last poll out yesterday from CNN had him 6 points up, but others have it by a division of 1 or 2 points, and some have McCain ahead. So very slight of advantage for Obama, and we'll have to see really if they're able to pull it out on the ground on Tuesday night. Now, the last 2 states, Ohio and Virginia. Now, Ohio, classic battleground state in 2000 and 2004. Obama has been up for most of the last few months. Right now, again, close, but Obama seems to have a clear and relatively consistent lead over John McCain. The most recent polls show Obama up by as little as 2 or 3 points, or as much as upwards of 10 points. But the trend seems to be moving back towards Obama with 5 days to go. So it's going to be very close. It's going to be a real fight on the ground, but narrow advantage to Obama. Now, last state, Virginia, used to be one of the most reliably Republican states in the country in presidential elections, but Obama seems pretty close to putting this one away. Most polls have him with a lead upwards of 10 points. Now let's step back and look at the big picture. These are all states, 9 states, that George W. Bush won in 2004. Barack Obama only has to win 1 or maybe 2 of them to take the presidential election. He's already pretty well ahead in at least 3 or 4, and there's really only 1 or perhaps 2 that John McCain has even a very narrow lead. Most of them, Barack Obama seems to have the narrow lead going in. So to win, if the polls stay like they are right now, John McCain really has to put together the classic inside straight. He has to come from behind in almost all of these states and win everyone. That said, the polls are close enough in states like Ohio, Florida, Missouri, Indiana, and so forth, that there's going to be a lot to watch for on election night. Now, as always, if you want to look at the polls yourselves, you can go to talkingpointsmemo.com and look at our interactive poll tracker map right there in the front, where you can look down at the state-level polls across the country, not only for the presidential, but for the House and the Senate as well. And our daily TPM Track Composite comes out just after 5 p.m. every day. I'm Josh Marshall from TPM Media, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.